Education Over Debt channel. I am Sheena Hogue. I am so glad you joined. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment below. This is a place where I give practical financial tips that anyone can understand and you can begin to implement now. Today's topic is tax diversification. We are in the midst of an election, and if you haven't done so already, please make sure you go and vote. Cast your vote and let your voice be heard. To make sure you're making an informed decision, you can go to ballotready.org to view all the candidates that will be on your ballot at the polls. With today's topic being tax diversification, I thought it'd be good that we go over exactly what are some ways that you could reduce your tax liability, or what are some ways that you could strategize as you begin to invest so that you can get the most bang for your buck. When we think about investing, oftentimes we think about retirement. And with retirement accounts, you have your pre-tax accounts and you have your after-tax accounts. Your pre-tax accounts include your traditional IRA, 401ks, 403bs, 457s, things that you save in at work. What pre-tax means is that you don't pay taxes when you put the money in to invest, but when you pull the money out of the account, that's when you will pay taxes. So what is the tax rate, you ask? The tax rate that you would pay when you take the money out of the account is the ordinary income tax rate at the time that you pull the monies out. So, how can this work for you? If you are a young person, you're just getting started in your career, you don't have any kids, you don't have a home or anything like that, saving in your 401k account may help reduce your tax liability because as you invest the money, you're not taxed on it. So let's say, for example, you made $50,000 in your annual income. You invest $10,000 in your 401k account. At the end of the year, instead of being taxed on $50,000, you'll only be taxed on $40,000. So the monies that you contributed to your 401k reduce your tax liability. Now, this could be a big deal if you're right on the fence of the different tax rates. So here's a little chart to show you, just to get an idea of what the tax rates are currently. So currently they range from 0% all the way up to 37%. And then these are the annual income amounts based off if you're single, if you're married, filing jointly, or if you're head of household. So saving in your pre-tax accounts could be beneficial for you today because it helps to reduce your tax liability. The other types of accounts we have are your Roth accounts, which are considered your after-tax accounts. So you have your Roth IRA accounts, Roth 403bs, 401ks, 457s, etc. What the Roth account does is you pay taxes on the money today, but then when you pull the money out, when you retire, you don't pay taxes on it then. So it's allowed to grow and earn interest and all that good stuff. And when you pull the monies out, you don't pay taxes on it then. So when you're thinking about taxes and tax diversification and retirement, those are the two ways that you can diversify your taxes. You may be wondering, well, why is this important, Sheena? This is important because if you're used to living a certain lifestyle, let's say you're used to living off of, let's say, 100 grand a year. Usually when people go into retirement, they like for their debts to be paid off. So their home to be paid off, their student loans to be paid off. They like for their kids to be out of their house, usually not having any dependents. And so what that does is that will put you in a higher tax bracket because you don't have as many things to deduct. So when you get into retirement, if you have some monies that you pull from your pre-tax accounts and some monies that you pull from your after-tax accounts, now you can still live that lifestyle without worrying about paying so much in taxes each year. So that's how the Roth account can come in to help balance you out for all the years that you were saving and investing into your 401ks. Now the Roth account comes in retirement, it helps to balance you out so that you can still live that lifestyle without being worried about the burden of taxes and how much in taxes you will have to pay each year. Because when you retire, we don't know how much the taxes will be. This year, with this current administration, the tax rates reduce. But as we've known in the past, because we have so much debt in this country, it usually tends to go up over the years. It doesn't decrease. So you want to be mindful of your taxes when you think about investing and when you think about long-term retirement in particular. The other area you want to think about in regards to taxes and investing is your non-retirement accounts. Now, the way your non-retirement accounts works is these are accounts where you pay the taxes on the monies going in, and then when you pull it out, you only have to pay the capital gain rates on the taxes. So currently the capital gains rate is 10 to 20%. And for most people, they fall within a 10 to 15% capital gains rate for what they would pay the taxes on. This is based off the income that you make each year. If you pull the money out prior to a year, then you be charged on ordinary income tax rates. So that's called short-term capital gains. So for capital gains, we usually like for you to be invested again for longer than a year, which is why I said in one of the other videos that these are your intermediate accounts, like your individual, your TOD account. This is anything that's greater than a year up to like 15, 20 years or what have you. When you pull the money out, you're only going to get charged the capital gains rate on the money if you kept it invested for at least a year. So when we think about tax diversification, we want to think about each area for where we will pull our money from. Another area that I didn't mention was life insurance. The cash value from your life insurance, that when you pull that money out, that is after tax dollars. So you won't be taxed on it when you pull the monies out for your life insurance policies. So we're talking about tax diversification because you want to think about, as you've invested this money for whatever your goals are, whether they're 3 years, 5 years, 20 years, you want to make sure that when you pull it out, that you get like the most bang for your buck in regards to not being burdened by how much you would have to pay in taxes. If you ever heard of anybody taking a distribution from their 403B account or their 401k account, usually right off top they take 20% in taxes because they know 9 times out of 10 people are not going to pay the taxes. They're unfamiliar with it because they don't understand that it's pre-tax dollars. And then whenever you invest for pre-tax dollars, the IRS will be sure to get you to pay some taxes off of those monies. So even if you get older, they have something called a required minimum distribution, which means currently if you're 72, they start making you take your money out of your pre-tax accounts so that you can start paying taxes on it because you've had it sitting for 20, 30 years and you haven't paid any taxes on the money. So pre-tax accounts, you always want to think ordinary income tax rates. That's how much I'll pay on those monies when I take the money out. Roth accounts, you want to think I'm paying taxes up front, so when I take the monies out, I don't have to worry about the taxes later on. And then with the non-retirement accounts, you want to think about your capital gains rate in which you will pay monies on the capital gains of the monies that you invested. Another thing I want to talk about with this tax conversation is you want to be mindful when people tell you to stay in debt or get into debt so you can reduce your tax liability. The reality is, for any debt, whether it's home ownership, student loans, or anything else that people say that you can reduce your taxes with, that is not a dollar for dollar match. So for your student loans, the highest that you can deduct your taxes with student loans is $2,500. So if you have $100,000 in student loans, you missing or reducing your taxes by $2,500, it's not that big of a deal. It's only like 2.5%. It's not really worth it. So you want to make sure that you don't stay in debt longer periods of time because you're listening to folks tell you you should keep this student loan debt, you should keep it in the firm, you should keep it in forbearance so that you can reduce your taxes because it's not a dollar for dollar match. And currently the maximum for student loans is $2,500. For the lifelong learning, the maximum for that is like $2,000. So again, you're going to school, you're paying these fees, and then the most you may get $4,500 deduction for it. Is it worth it? Think about it, consider it, look into your situation and understand more about it. Same thing with home ownership. Home ownership has limits too. So you want to look into the home ownership to see what's the most that you could deduct for home ownership in your taxes. Okay, so same thing. When you start thinking about debt and reducing your tax liability for debt, you always want to be mindful, do some research to see whether the maximum amounts that you could reduce your taxes because of the debt you have. In any case, though, it's not a dollar for dollar match. So you want to look into that so that you can be more mindful with how you use your money because you don't want to just, again, be working to pay bills or feeling like you're working to pay taxes. So those are things you want to think about. You want to think about investing, as I have on this triangle. You want to have a little bit of money in each pot so that when you take the monies out, you don't have to be burdened with the amount of taxes that you have to pay. But then also when you think about debt, you also want to look at what are the maximum amounts that you could deduct for the debt, because in no situation is it a dollar for dollar match for debt. Okay, so you want to look into those things, do a little bit of research, talk to your financial advisor if you have more questions, talk to your tax professional in particular. Yes, talk to your tax professional if you have more questions about it, because taxes can be a little tricky. talking to like a tax professional will really help you shed some light on some ways that you can help reduce your tax liability at the end of the year, and be mindful of how you're spending your money now so that you can get the most bang for your buck. I know some people are used to getting refunds for taxes. Be honest with you, I don't get a lot of refunds. So I've learned this tax law a lot because when I lived in Maryland, they had a locality tax on top of the state tax. So that's another thing you want to look at. Now that I mentioned it, you want to look at your state and see what your state tax income rates are. Because I know in Maryland, you can literally be paying about 10% in taxes just for state right off your income. And so, that's a lot. When you look at other states and they're only paying like 3% or 5%, and then you go to Maryland, they're paying like 10%. It's a lot. And so talk to your tax professional to get a better understanding about taxes. But I did want to bring it up because I know we are in the midst of an election, and I know certain parties tend to have higher tax rates than other parties. They tend to reduce the taxes when they're in office. But at the end of the day, you just want to be mindful of how all this impacts you. Talk to your tax professional so that you can understand what are some ways that you can reduce your tax liabilities, but nevertheless be mindful of everything that's going on. So if you haven't, like I said before at the beginning of this video, make sure you go out to vote. Vote so that your voice is heard. And when you go to the ballots, make sure you make an informed decision by going to ballotready.org to see who all will be on your ballots when you go in to vote. Thank you for watching this video on tax diversifications. I look forward to learning and sharing more topics with you in the next few weeks. This is the 4th episode out of 8 episodes for season 1. So I have a few more topics that I'd like to share with you. If you have anything that you want to learn about, please drop me a message on Facebook and Instagram to let me know your thoughts. Other than that, share this video with a friend or family member, and make sure you like, share, subscribe, and leave comments below. Thanks.